Did you know that there's a weapon in the hands of our youth, and we often let them use it unsupervised? In fact, that same weapon is probably in your hands right now. And yet, sometimes we use it without even really thinking about it. Well, today, let's talk about that weapon, and let's try to figure out how we can use it for good and to keep ourselves safe. You might be wondering right now, what weapon are we talking about? Are we talking about knives, guns, anything like that? Well, no, but this weapon is like any other weapon. It's dangerous. It's sharp. It can cut. It can hurt, but it can also be used for good. This weapon is amoral, meaning it's neither really good or bad. It just depends on how we go about using it. And that weapon that we're talking about today is the weapon of the internet. And when I say the internet, I'm talking about things like social media. I'm talking about platforms where you can stream movies like Netflix and even YouTube. And of course, we have websites that are part of the internet. And so, as we're talking about this weapon that everyone pretty much has access to, and we have our youth that oftentimes will use it unsupervised, and we as adults will often use it even sometimes really late at night as we're about to go to bed. How do we go about using it in a positive, Christ-like way? And that's what we're going to talk about. Because the song that comes to my mind when I'm thinking about this is that song where it says, "Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. Be careful, little hands, little feet, our minds, our hearts." And you know, with this discussion, that's really where it has to begin, doesn't it? It has to begin in the heart. And let's look over at Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 4. Because this is where God wants us. He says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart." And so that, again, is just really where it all begins. It begins in the heart of an individual. And as we look at a passage in Matthew chapter 6, I think we see something pretty interesting over here in regards to our heart and in regards to our eyes. Because here Jesus says, starting in verse 22, "The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, the whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness?" And so I want to throw out some practical application ideas for how we can guard our hearts when we have this really powerful weapon in our hands, or when this really powerful weapon is in the hands of our youth or other family members. The first idea that I want us to really take hold of is, let's read a proverb a day. A chapter in Proverbs is what I'm talking about. There are 31 chapters in Proverbs, and there are about 30 days in a month. That's a really good reading program set up, huh? And so, as a family, let's sit down, let's read Proverbs. Let's see what God has to tell us about where we can find wisdom and how to go about our lives. And I think that's a really great thing to do, whether we're doing it as a family or just doing it by ourselves. But number 2, let's set time limits. It is so easy to go down that rabbit hole of social media and streaming platforms like Netflix and YouTube. And oftentimes people, especially if we're on social media a lot, we get caught up in the news of the day, and we get overwhelmed and we get anxious. And a lot of these things can really hurt us if we're not paying attention to it. So like anything else, can we set time limits, set guardrails to make sure that we're not just getting overwhelmed by what we're seeing? A thing that we have at our house is called an open device policy, and this is point number 3. As a family, the way that we've set it up is that my phone doesn't have a passcode on it. Or if it did, everyone would know it. And the idea is that I want my wife to be able to look and see exactly what I've been watching, exactly what I've been texting, what I've been tweeting, all of that. I want her to have access to that. Our children, we have access to their devices. We have an open device policy where we're allowed to go at any time and look and see what they're doing. It holds them accountable. We're held accountable. And that helps with how we use our devices. And then another point is have an internet zone in the home. You know, with Wi-Fi, it's really easy to have internet wherever we are in the home. And sometimes we find a place in the home where maybe it drops a bar and we're like, oh, I wish we had better internet here. You know, when I was younger, we didn't have Wi-Fi. You would hook up the telephone line into the modem and you would dial out and then it would take up the phone. Now, after that they went to Ethernet wired connection, and now we have Wi-Fi. It's accessible, so accessible. But a really good idea and a really wise idea, I think, is to have an internet zone in the house. For our family, that's the living room. So if our kids are on their devices and they want to have internet access, we try to limit that, for the most part, to the living room. This is our internet zone. Now, it doesn't always play out that way, but we try to put limits and accountability to where we're just not overwhelmed by what we can process and consume for the day. And then my last practical point, the last practical idea that I want to throw out there to you today is this. This is such a dangerous weapon. Internet, social media, video platforms, all that kind of stuff, websites. When you feel like the weapon is controlling you, when you start to get hurt by the weapon that you're using, if you start to feel it cutting at you, and maybe you end up on a website that you're not supposed to be on, maybe you see something on social media that just hurts, and it's something you're not supposed to be looking at, run. Turn the device off. Disconnect. Run. And I think that if we run away from those instances where we're even getting close to something bad, that's going to help us in the long run, I think. So here's what I want from you today. In the comment section below, I want you to tell me another idea, another practical application for how we can be in control of this powerful weapon that's in our hands, and how we can go about using this in a Christ-like manner. The reality is that for the foreseeable future, this technology is not going to go away. And so we've got to be wise in how we use it. Set healthy boundaries. And so we want to hear from you. How do you do that? Do you have some ideas that you can share with us so we can use the technology that we have in as Christ-like a way as possible? Talking about good use of technology, we've grown as a channel pretty consistently over the past few months, and we're so thankful for your all support. One thing that we've noticed is that nearly 64% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. And so what we want to encourage you to do is just hit that subscribe button. This is one of those things that this is a good use of technology. We try to put these out almost every day. And so we are trying to give you something that will encourage and strengthen your faith. And if you think that's a positive thing, hit that subscribe button and be notified of any time that we post our videos so that we can use technology in a positive way and fill our hearts with good things. I hope you have a great day.